So after some really nice weather in November, I'm talking t-shirts and shorts, we finally get our first snowfall. Take a look. It's coming down pretty hard. I'm gonna go grab a coffee and I'll show you guys how to play some more of the derived roads. All right, now that I got my coffee, I am ready to go. I'm going to show you guys how to read the Big I road, this one over here, and the small road. I have already covered how to read the cockroach road. If you haven't seen that video yet, I highly recommend doing so. That way, when I explain the Big I boy and the small road, it will be easier for you to follow. Okay, so go check that video out. Now, let's start with the Big I road, this one over here. So, same concept. You're gonna learn how to read it easily, just like the cockroach road. As you all know, for the cockroach road, we move 3 to the left, but for the Big I road, we are gonna move only 1 to the left. Okay, so again, same concept, although you're moving 1 to the left, not 3. You move 3 to the left for the cockroach road, 1 to the left for the Big I road, and 2 to the left for the small road, which we'll get to in a second. Okay, let's try to read the Big I road and the small road at the same time. Let's start with the Big I. If a banker were to show up, what would the result of the Big I road be? Blue for chaos or red for predictability? Well, let's take a look. If a banker were to show up, we move 1 to the left for the Big I road. Take a look at this square. It's filled. Take a look at the square above it. Also filled. These are the same. So if we were to bet banker, a red circle will appear on the Big I road. What about the small road? Well, again, we're going to do the same thing, except this time we will move 2 to the left. Okay? So starting from the last outcome, which is banker over here, go directly below it. All right, this is where you're going to start from. Let's go 2 to the left. 1, 2. We have an empty square. And above it, we have a filled square. These two are opposites. What happens when we have an opposite? A blue circle, meaning chaos, will show up if we were to bet banker. Okay? So again, a banker win would result in a red circle for the Big I road and a blue circle for the small road. If a player were to show up, we would get the complete opposite. A blue will show up on the Big I road and a red will show up on the small road. Okay, so let's see what comes up. As you can see, a banker win resulted in a red circle on the Big I road and a blue circle on the small road. Let's try it again. If another banker were to show up, what would the results be for the Big I road and the small road? Well, let's take a look at the Big I road first. Go directly below the last result, move 1 to the left for the Big I road. Empty, filled, these are opposites, so a banker win would result in a blue chaos circle on the Big I road. A banker win for the small road would result in what? Well, let's take a look. We start here and move 2 to the left. 1, 2. We have an empty square. Above it, we also have an empty square. These two are the same, so if another banker were to show up, we would get a red predictable circle on the small road. And if a player were to show up, the opposite circles of what I just mentioned will come up. Okay, so let's see what wins next. Okay, player. You see here, we are reading it the easy way. Okay, remember what I said. We started here, we moved one to the left. This is empty, this is filled. So if you were to bet banker, this would be blue. Opposite of banker is player, which means if player were to come up, it would be red instead of blue. Okay, which is exactly what happened. A player showed up and a red circle came up on the Big I road. Take a look at the small road. If we read it the easy way, we would have started here, moved 2 to the left, 1, 2. Both of these squares are empty, which means they are the same. So a red circle would show up on the small road if a banker were to come. Now, if the opposite of banker were to show up, which it did, it would just be opposite of red, blue. And that is exactly what happened. Player came up and a blue chaos circle showed up on the small road. As you can see, it's not that difficult, pretty straightforward and simple to understand. Just a quick recap, the Big I road, we are moving 1 to the left. The small road, we are moving 2 to the left. And the cockroach road, which I did a video on already, we move 3 to the left. I'm going to show you a nice little strategy using the Big I road and the small road combined with 2 sequences of X marks the spot. So let me go ahead and demonstrate that to you now. I have a fresh shoe ready to go. Now, how this strategy works is very simple. All I'm going to do is for sequence 1 of my X marks the spot, I will use the Big I road. For sequence 2 of X marks the spot, I will use the small road. Okay? Simple. Let me show you. What do we do first when we play the X marks the spot? We would wait for a free hand. Now, in this case, since we're using the Big I road, we're going to have to take a few more free hands so the first result on the Big I road will show up. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, there we go. The first result on the Big I road is a red predictable circle. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that down for you guys. And I'm going to go by R for red and B for blue. Okay, guys? So first result is a red. We have to take one more free hand for sequence 1. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, next result, also a red circle. So I'm going to put R here, and we are now ready to bet. What are we betting on? Well, we are obviously betting on the opposite, blue, for chaos. Now, which one, banker or player, will produce a blue circle on the Big I road? Well, let's take a look. If I were to bet on banker, we move 1 to the left. This square is the same as the square above it. So I would get a red circle if I were to bet banker. I don't want a red circle. I want a blue circle. So I'm going to bet opposite of banker. Player. Okay. So let's go ahead and put $25 on player. Okay. So we win sequence 1. A blue showed up. Okay. And we won $25. We can now play sequence 2. I'm going to take a free hand over here. And this time we will go off of the small road. Okay, guys? So we get a red circle. We're going to go ahead and mark that down. I'll space it out so it's easier for you guys to follow. All right, one more free hand. And we get a blue chaos circle. So I'm going to write B. We are now ready to bet. Our free hand was red, so we are going against red, which means we are going for chaos, blue. How would we get a blue circle on the small road? Well, let's take a look. If we were to bet banker, we would move 2 to the left, 1, 2. This square is filled. The square above it is also filled, which means these two are the same. So if I were to bet banker, I would get a red circle on the small road. I don't want a red circle, I want a blue one. So again, I'm going to bet opposite of banker, player. So $25 on player. And we win again on the first try. As you can see, we hit on both sequence 1 and sequence 2. Let's go ahead and write down our profits here. And we could restart the X marks the spot. So I'm going to highlight and clear. And we could start over with another free hand. So let's try it again. Okay, we're going to start with the Big I Road for sequence 1. We get a blue circle. So B for blue. We take one more free hand. Another blue. Okay. We are now ready to bet on sequence 1 for the Big I Road. We're going against blue. We're looking for red. Let's take a look whether banker or player would produce a red circle on the Big I Road. If I were to bet banker, I would move 1 to the left. This square is filled. This square is filled. These are the same. So again, if I were to bet banker, a red circle would show up on the Big I Road. That is exactly what I want, a red circle. So I'm going to bet on banker. 25 on banker. Okay, we lose. A blue showed up, minus 25. Okay. We can continue playing sequence 1 when the opportunity comes, but for now we are moving over to sequence 2. So what do we do first? We take a free hand, and we're looking at the small road this time. Okay, our free hand is a red circle. Let's go ahead and write that down. We have to take another free hand. And another red circle appeared on the small road. So let's write that down. We are now ready to bet on sequence 2 of X marks the spot using the small road. I am looking for a blue circle. So let's take a look at our board here. How would we get a blue chaos circle? Well, if I were to bet banker, let's move 2 to the left. 1, 2. This is empty. The square above it is filled. So if I were to bet banker, since these two are opposites, I would get a blue circle, which is exactly what I want. So I'm going to bet banker. I'm going to put 2 units on banker. Okay, we're going off of our bet spreads. Okay, we lose that. Another red showed up. Minus 50. So we are now back at the top here. We are going to take a free hand before we start betting again on this middle spot of sequence 1. So let's take a free hand, and we're going to take a look at the Big I Road this time. Okay, so the Big I Road produced a red circle. We're going to mark that down. Red. And we are now ready to bet on sequence 1. We're going back to the Big I since we are on sequence 1. Remember, sequence 1 is the Big I Road and sequence 2 is the small road. So our free hand was blue. We are betting against that. I'm looking for red. Okay, so if I were to bet banker, I move 1 to the left, empty, full, which means these are opposites. So I would get blue if I were to bet banker. I don't want blue, I want red, so I'll bet opposite of banker. I'm going to go with player. Bump it up to 3 units. Okay, we lose. So minus 75. Okay, we're going to take a free hand here. So a red circle. And now we have to take another free hand before we start betting on sequence 2. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, on the small road, that was a blue circle. So we'll write blue. We are now ready to bet on sequence 2. So we're going to use the small road. And our free hand was red, so we are going against it. I'm looking for blue on the small road. If I were to bet player, I move 2 to the left, 1, 2, empty, filled. Opposites, so I would get blue if I were to bet player. So I'm going to bet player because I'm looking for blue. And we're moving up on our bet spreads. Okay, so we win that. This was a blue. 125. Okay, so we have hit on sequence 2, but we have not hit on sequence 1. So we're going to try to get a hit on sequence 1. Let's take a free hand so we could get to the top. This would be our next bet on sequence 1, top right corner. So I'm going to take a free hand here. Okay, that was red. We are now ready to bet again on sequence 1. Our free hand was blue, so I'm looking for red. Okay, how do we get red on the Big Eye Road? Well, let's take a look. If we were to bet player, we move 1 to the left on the Big Eye. Empty, filled. So these are opposites. I would get blue if I were to bet player. I don't want blue, I want red. So I'm going to bet opposite of player. Banker. Okay. And we are going to use our bet spreads. Since we are 25 in profit, I'll move 2 to the left instead of 1. So a $50 bet on banker. Okay, that's a tie. Ignore ties, do not record them. Okay, so we lose that. Another blue showed up. That was a $50 bet. We have one more bet to go on the first sequence, or else an X has formed on us, which does happen on occasion. So let's take one more free hand here. Okay, a blue. Let's go ahead and record that. And we are on the last bet on sequence 1. We are looking for red again. Okay, so if I were to bet banker, we move 1 to the left on the Big Eye. This square is filled. This square is filled. So if I were to bet banker on the Big Eye, I would get a red circle, which is exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm going to bet on banker. I am moving 1 to the right on my bet spreads, so $75 bet. And there we go. We hit on sequence 1 finally. It took us to our last bet, but we did hit. Plus 75. We have now hit on both sequence 1 and sequence 2. So we can clear and start all over again. And there you have it, how to easily read both the Big Eye Road and the small road. And you could use the 2 sequences from my X marks the spot for each of the derived roads. Try it out. Let me know how it goes in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash the like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel if you love strategies and money management. Check out my website, link in the description. Thank you everybody for watching. I will catch you in the next one. Ciao.